Dear learners, previously we have discussed about the what is the herbarium, its definition, what is the aim and objective of operation of a herbarium, and its function and role in the biodiversity conservation. Now we will going to learn about the types of herbarium. Herbarium ranges from a small personal collection, mostly of a few hundred specimens, to a large collection of colleges, universities, and private foundations and government agencies. So there are different types of herbaria and they are being used for various activities. Generally, the following types of herbaria are categorized like international herbaria, that is Royal Botanical Garden in Kews, national herbaria, that is the Central National Herbaria of Howrah, then regional herbaria like Andaman Nicobar Regional Center, that is BSI in Port Blair, that university herbaria like Calcutta University Herbaria in Kolkata, or Aligarh Muslim University Herbaria in the Aligarh. Then medicinal plant herbaria, that is the Central Institute of Medicinal and Aromatic Plants in Lucknow. Then economically important plant herbaria like in industrial section in the Indian Museum in Kolkata. Then local herbaria, that is the Malabar Botanical Herbarium in Calicut. Then agriculture herbaria, that is based in Tamil Nadu in the Agriculture University of Herbarium, Coimbatore. So these are the different types of herbaria depending upon their regions and their use of their in particular institutions. Now moving towards the function of these different types of herbarium. Like the first one is the general or international herbaria. These are very large, often with 4 million or more specimens, and are global representation of a nearly a comprehensive range of taxa as possible. They are very rich in types and other historical specimens, and the function of general herbaria include broad scale studies of families and all the flower plants, production of generic monographs, major floras covering several countries, and national and local floras checklist. Then their serving includes loans, providing facilities for visiting botanists, identifying a specimen, especially noting new taxa, dispatching determination list, and distribution duplicates. Because it is very important, as we have discussed earlier in the functions of herbaria, that any researcher which is working on a plant, it is very important to have a reference identification mark of the particular plants, and that reference identification can be done by the herbaria. Regional herbaria, geographically these cover the country concerned and neighboring or phytogeographically similar areas. As far as possible, all taxa relevant to the area should be represented. Type material is often well presented, especially among the more recently described taxa. And the function of national herbaria include the contribution to major floras that covering several countries, production of national and local floras checklist, aid in the assessments of threatened plants, and the service includes loans, providing facilities for visiting botanists, identifying a specimen relevant to the country, and dispatching determination list, collecting material from the field and distributing duplicates, providing material for ancillary disciplines like in case of anatomy, cytology, chemistry, molecular biology, palynology, and pharmacology, and especially material freshly collected for the purpose. So these national regions have also very important because they are providing the list of and preparing the list for our country. Like BSI is preparing a list of the endangered species in our country, that is very important for the our national herbarium, because we came to know which type of plant are become endangered or which type of plant needs protection. So this is a very important aspect because national herbaria provide a valuable information for the biodiversity conservation, and that came for the national or regional herbaria. Next is the local herbaria. This deals with the regions within a country such as state, country or district, or even much smaller areas such as the game park or nature reserve. They may contain a few type of specimen, and all the taxa significant to be the area should be represented, but keeping large number of each taxon is unnecessary. The function of a local herbarium include contribution to the national floras, production of local floras and checklist, and their services include identifying a specimen significant to the area and compiling determination list, collecting material from the field and distributing duplicates, and collecting material from the field for the ancillary discipline as we have discussed earlier. Because it is not possible to centrally as a national herbaria to collect all the region's plants. So local herbaria is also very important because they are collecting the local region plants and providing data and ancillary discipline to the needed plant or researcher that require it. So they are providing a locally representative of the plant, they are present that particular regions. Then the next is the special type of herbaria. There are several types of special herbaria depending upon the function, like historical herbaria. These may be kept as a separate herbarium within a general herbarium like Village Herbarium at Kew or De Candolle Herbarium at Geneva, or belong to the separate institution like Linnean Society of Universities, Museum or monasteries. They are usually arranged in their own original sequence and hence restrictions governing conservation and loans. Because of that, these are the herbaria. Because suppose the decontrol herbaria has all the plant record which they have studied. So this type of herbaria have a particular historical importance. So they cannot be used for the consultation or loans because they are very historical as well, important for the historical importance. As you can see, this is the herbarium of the Linnean Society of London, as you can see this one, and this one is the Village Herbarium at Kew. You can see these are the herbarium of the historical importance. Then some of the herbaria have a limited scope, and these may be either limited taxonomically like cryptogamic herbarium or ecologically like forest herbarium. They are often separately housed within a general herbarium or other institutions such as universities or museum. Because every in herbarium, as we have studied earlier, that the herbarium is arranged in the form of a sequence, a particular type of a classification. Suppose in a herbarium will dispose a particular region, that is some plant needed a ecologically they need a conservation, or biodiversity they need a conservation. So there is a separate area where ecologically or cryptogamically there is a preparation of a herbarium. They have a limited access because we are not able to align all the plants in a particular region. Suppose taxonomic and jasminic plants are prepared on a sheet, and many of them are prepared in a boxes. As we know, in the case of gymnosperm, they have a large size of cones. So this type of plant are preserved in a glasses. So for this particular cones of gymnosperm as a productive part, there is a different whole regions where we can visualize the cones or productive parts of the gymnosperms. Then those plant parts which cannot be present dried in the herbarium sheet. So like in case of cryptogamic like algae, bryophyte. So these plants are prepared in case of envelope. So there is a different type of herbarium, there is different room for these particular plants. Then many plant species are native and many are from the invasive species that comes from the different countries. So there is a herbaria for different sections that categorize the plant species depending upon their nature, that is ecologically important. Then these are the some examples of, like in this image you can see the Herbaria de Candolle that is present in the Geneva, that representing the herbariums of the De Candolle, as you can see in these images. These are the historical importance herbaria that belong to the De Candolle. As you can see, these are the herbariums that prepared by the De Candolle present in the Geneva, and these have the historical importance. Similarly, if we see the function of different types of herbarium, so like the teaching herbarium, these are the housed in the universities with more modest herbaria in colleges and schools. Teaching herbaria should contain a specimen to illustrate morphological structures the type of plant representative of the communities encountering field studies, example of both economic species and species of locally grown crops, and the series to illustrate families and genera for a taxonomic instruction. So this is a very important case of teaching, like in universities or colleges. They have a different herbarium that is generally kept for the teaching purposes. As I have told you, suppose we have to study the different types of families, or suppose we are studying the ecology of biodiversity conservation. If a particular species is needed, endangered, become endangered, so we cannot collect the fresh specimen of that particular plant. So if we have a herbarium of that particular plant, we can show to our student that is that particular plant, so that can identify that plant easily, because without seeing from their eyes, it is not possible to remember all the characters of that particular plant. So when the students see them from their eyes, they can identify it in the regions. So it is very important for the teaching. The herbarium very helpful in the teaching of the plants. And suppose this is the case for the endangered plant, or that plant that needed the protection. But suppose a plant, we are studying the different types of families in the herbarium. And as we know, the different plant have a different type of flowering season. Suppose a plant that is growing in a winter, but that course running in the summer season. So if we have a herbarium of that particular plant that flowers in a winter, so we can show them to the student that this is the morphology of that particular plant, and this one is the identical plant that particular plant. So this is quite helpful for the student, because although that particular plant is not originally present, but we can show them in the case of the preserved material. So that is very helpful for the student to identify that type of a plant. Now moving towards the other functions of the herbarium, like job-related herbarium. These could include collection of weed species for agriculturists, or honey-related plants for beekeepers. For examples, they should contain a good example of all relevant taxa, but multiple collection of the same taxon are not desirable. Then collection of cultivated plants can be useful in adjuncts to the botanical garden, arboreta nurseries, or agricultural station, especially if exotic species are grown. Then herbaria is also very important for the research programs, as we have discussed earlier, that these include voucher specimens for anatomy, cytology, chemical studies, ecological surveys, environmental impact assessment studies, host plant of insect or fungal pest and animal food plants. So these voucher specimens are often housed in general or national herbaria, but they are frequently unwelcome as they can lack quality, are often common taxa and take up valuable space. If housed in the university department sponsoring the researcher has the convenience of direct access to the vouchers. So these are the herbaria which has the voucher is very important, because these voucher is available for the student to do research in this particular type of plant. Then the next category of herbarium is the virtual herbarium. Like virtual is the herbarium in a digitized form which has the collection of digital images of preserved plant or parts. Like now most of the herbarium now tend to become a virtual herbarium. Like the digital herbarium of Cal, that is it become digitalized. You can see here, this is the one of the virtual herbarium that present in India. Then herbaria in the world and index herbarium. According to Holmgren and Holmgren, there are 3,240 herbarium in the world. However, there are approximately 3,400 herbaria in the world, and they have a number of species that document the earth vegetation of the past 400 years, and that is called as the index herbarium. And the index herbarium, that is a global directory of a public herbaria, and associated staff can be referred from this particular link, and each herbarium is assigned an official acronym that is called as code, that is used as a standard for referring to the institution and it is a specimen. So it provides a physical location, web address content, and contents like number and types of a specimen, history, names, contact information, and areas of expertise of associated staff of a particular herbarium. So Herbarium is a very important because from this we can directly connect to the person from which we can get the information of that particular plant we want to know about. So it is a very important. Now moving towards the herbarium of the world, and the largest herbarium of the world which has a crore of species, that is the Herbie Laboratory, the Phanerogamy and Cryptogamy, and the Museum of National the History in Natural Paris that have present in the Paris, which has the acronym P. Then the Royal Herbarium of the Royal Botanical Garden in Q, which is includes around 1.2 million species of the fungi that present in the Botanical Garden, that has the acronym K. Then Herbaria of VI in Botanical Institute, that has the acronym that is LE. Then Herbaria of Swedish Museum in the Natural History Stockholm, that has the acronym S. Then William and Lyda History Herbarium in New York Botanical Garden, that has the acronym NY. Then Herbarium Conservative of the Jordan Botanic, that has the acronym G. Then Herbaria Botany Department, that the National History Museum in London, that has the acronym BM. So therefore there is a number of herbarium that is a very important. There are a number of species, as you can see here, that is documented in this particular herbarium. So these are the list of the some world's most important herbarium. Like in the last, this is the Central National Herbarium in Howrah that present in India, which has around 2 lakh species that is the documented in this particular herbarium. So these are some herbarium of the world. As you can see in this image, this is the herbarium, that is a Museum National de Histoire Naturelle in the Paris, which has the largest number of herbarium specimen in all the world. Then the next one is the Herbarium of Royal Botanical Garden Kew in England, that has the acronym K. This is the second largest herbarium of the world. Then the next one is showing the Royal Botanical Garden in Edinburgh, Scotland. As you can see in these images, these are the Royal Botanical Garden in Edinburgh. Now moving towards the important herbaria in India. India also has a significant herbaria such as the Central National Herbaria in Howrah, which has the maximum number of species, that is the around 2 crore. Then the National Botanical Research Institute in the Lucknow and the Forest Research Institute in the Dehradun. These have a number of collection of the plant flora. These collections are vital for the studying internal flora, preserving biodiversity and supporting conservation efforts within the country. As you can see, this is the highest number of plant species preserved in the Central National Herbarium, which is now become virtual. Then the second is the Forest Research Institute in the Dehradun, which has the 3,30,000 species. Then Botanical Survey of India, which has in Shillong has a 2,90,000 species. Then followed by the different types of BSI. These have a, then they have different zones of the different universities. The different universities also have a mini herbarium, like you can see different Botanical Survey Botany Department of University of Calicut also have 42,000 number of herbarium specimen. Here you can see the image of Central National Herbarium that present in the Howrah, that is have a acronym that is a CAL. You can see here. Now as I have told you earlier, now it will become the virtual, one of the virtual herbarium, which has a monocot type of herbarium. And one of the most important herbarium of the India is the Royal Botanical Garden in which present in the Siplur, Kolkata. It was founded by the Lieutenant Colonel Robert Cade in 1787 at Sipur, and he is also acted as the first director of this particular garden. And the garden represents a large number of tropical plants of the world and many fern houses, orchids, palms and specialists of the garden. It is also headquarters of the Botanical Survey of India, and some of its scientific publications are Annals of Royal Botanical Garden, Kolkata, Cinchona Cultivation in the Bengal, and Records of Botanical Survey of India. And the libraries of Botanical Survey of India and Royal Botanical Garden are also well known for the botanist. A big and well-built herbarium is also set with this particular garden. So next we will learn about how to prepare a herbarium, its different techniques. So in summary, today we will learn about in herbarium are valuable tools for documenting and conserving plant diversity They contribute to research, support conservation, and fosters education. As we face biodiversity loss, the role of herbarium now become even more critical in preserving the world's plants heritage. So that's all for today. Thank you all for joining this session. That's all.